The flywheel and the clutch cover on the engine side are united by bolts. Inside the clutch cover, there is a pressure plate which pushes the clutch disc against the flywheel, usually by a diaphragm spring. This pushing power transmits the rotational movements of the engine to the transmission through the input shaft splined with the clutch disc. This is a condition called the clutch is engaged. When the power pushing the pressure plate against the clutch disc is lost, the clutch disc becomes free between the flywheel and the pressure plate. This is a condition called the clutch is disengaged. The clutch that is now being pushed is the type which disengages when a pushing force is applied to the small end of the diaphragm spring. There is another type to release the pressure plate using a pulling force by reversing the fulcrum and the action point of the diaphragm spring. Compared with the pushing type, the pulling type allows a bigger release lever ratio A to B. Accordingly, the bigger pushing force against the clutch disc does not make the operation of the clutch pedal heavier. Here is how the clutch functions. Depression of the clutch generates the sliding movement of the piston. In the clutch master cylinder, that sliding movement converts to hydraulic pressure. The inlet valve closes the reservoir passage. The elevated hydraulic pressure is transmitted to the release cylinder. Using the hydraulic pressure, the release cylinder piston pushes the clutch release fork through the push rod. And then the release bearing installed on the other end pushes the diaphragm spring in motion. In this way, the clutch disc can be released from the pushing of the pressure plate by the diaphragm spring, and the clutch is disengaged.